For the past month, he's seen 48 million downloads and streams. That overall, those numbers are a 32% dip. So still wildly popular, don't get it twisted, but they've been replaced, at least as of now, by the Midas Touch podcast, another progressive podcast. And we want to show you, they've recently jumped up 120%. And not surprising, I think that a lot of people want to see someone standing strong against Donald Trump and all this insanity. And you're not going to see that on Joe Rogan, certainly not recently, but on Midas Touch, you'll see it. You'll also see it here, by the way. So, listen to our podcast on the Damage Report. We put it out every day. And so he's still number 2. You can see there, though, the number 3 podcast is Candace Owens. And I know that I'm biased, and our producer Mike gave a great explanation as to why he thinks some people like it, but I cannot conceive of downloading and listening to an episode of Candace Owens talking about literally anything. People lead such wild lives, I don't get it. And there's some other right wingers on there or whatever, but what might be the problem for Joe Rogan is he's like now all in on Donald Trump and Elon Musk. He talks about them all the time, and his ability to do the thing that I think made him popular for years, which was criticize everyone that he thinks is wrong. He was open-minded, that's what we always heard. But that's not really the case anymore. Now, he's a stand for Donald Trump, and even more so for Elon Musk. And Elon Musk isn't popular. Like, I know this is gonna be news to Joe Rogan, but people like Elon Musk even less than they like Donald Trump. And so when you go to like his subreddit, Joe Rogan, you see things like Joe and his anti-elite billionaire friends are becoming the swamp they've always hated. Don't forget, Joe Rogan has hundreds of millions of dollars. Mike Hawk Balls Deep said, I really miss the old Joe. He's a cuck now. And that's real talk right there on the thing. Anyway, people talking about how it's become just a right-wing talk show with very predictable opinions on everything. This guy says, I used to really respect what Joe had to say. Now I'm just gay. I don't understand what that means, but he doesn't seem to be a fan anymore. Someone said, I wish the Joe from 10 years ago could see this Joe and the absolute pile of festering S he's become. That seems overly harsh. But anyway, this is a lot of people who've listened to him for a long time, and they didn't necessarily want him to be like a partisan Democrat or a partisan Republican. They liked that he was independent. That's just not what he is anymore. And so Daria, I don't think he's gonna be starving anytime soon. He's still one of the most popular podcasts in the world, but maybe this is the beginning of a turn. What do you think?
Definitely, it should be a wake-up call when even your own fans are starting to give you the side eye and your audience is using phrases like, Joe's drinking the Kool-Aid to describe your takes. It might be time to reconsider some things in your life choices. And just imagine losing your number 1 spot because you couldn't stop being Elon's hype man and hyping him up and calling him a genius. And the irony of being dethroned by Midas Touch, them being number 1, which is everything that Joe Rogan stands against right now and Elon Musk stands against. It's just perfect. It's chef's kiss. Talk about a plot twist. So
yeah, look, he'll still get the Fox News people, the people who simultaneously believe that they're anti-establishment and also grovel at the feet of billionaires. Those people will still like the new Joe Rogan turn. Joe Rogan's, if he's not a billionaire, he'll be a billionaire soon, and he believes that the billionaires are right and trustworthy. You should trust billionaires. No, Elon Musk getting in and meddling with government contracts and everything, of which he has, that's fine. You shouldn't question that. That's not anti-establishment. That's not populist. That's not what it is. And I think a lot of his old school audience, they are what Fox viewers said they were. They're actually questioning of the establishment. And so why would they like this? They don't want to hear every day that billionaires are the best and business is awesome and all that. It's just strange. Again, he doesn't need my advice. His podcast is 1,000 times more popular than mine, but he's now been eclipsed. So anyway, that unfortunately is all the time we have for our show today. Daria, thank you as always, not only for joining us, but also for providing your garbage person of the week. I did appreciate that. Thank you.
I love being here. I love you guys and I love the Dragon community. So I'm excited to come back whenever you guys want me.
Thank you. Where can people follow you in the meantime?
Definitely. So you guys can check me out on TikTok at Daria Rose Real, also on Instagram at Daria Rose. And I'm on Rebel HQ each week. I have a new video that goes more in depth talking about the Constitution, anything that you want to know that's going on in the Trump administration, the executive orders, Elon Musk, censorship. So you can find me there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much and have a good one.
Thanks.
For everybody out there, I'm going to be leading the first hour of the Young Turks Power Panel later on today, so definitely join us there. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome. It is indisputable. I'm your host, Rosado. Richard, good to be with you. We have a lot to cover on the agenda. So glad to have Francesca with us today to break down all of the news. Always fascinating to have her analysis. Top story of the day, hell of a thing. Cops brutally beat a black male over a parking violation. Here it is.
They wanted to do something to this man. This other cop came rushing over here. They told him to turn up. Oh my goodness.
Put up the picture full mass. Let me give you the background to what you just saw. I'm taking you to Indiana. Lawrence police claim they repeatedly punched, kicked, and tasered 38-year-old William Jerome Armstrong in a Walmart parking lot on Tuesday because he attacked them first, according to the police. But police in the Indianapolis suburb of Lawrence still have not released body camera footage supporting that proclamation. As of now, the only videos that have surfaced were recorded by witnesses showing police officers repeatedly punching Mr. Armstrong as his sister screams in shock. And one of the witnesses who recorded the beating accused the Lawrence Police Department of lying about what had taken place. It all started Tuesday afternoon after Ms. Armstrong pulled up to a Walmart to pick up his 16-year-old sister. parking in the fire lane in front of the store, which is a non-moving violation punishable by a small fine. According to court records obtained by WRIC-TV, a Lawrence police officer spotted Mr. Armstrong parked in the fire lane in a white Ford Explorer, so he pulled up behind him in the same fire lane to issue him a citation. But police claim that Armstrong immediately and aggressively approached the cop's car with his hands balled into a fist, demanding to know if the officer, quote, had a problem. The cop said he warned Armstrong not to run up on police, but that just further infuriated Armstrong, where he became, according to them, hostile and argumentative and told the cop to F off. The cop said he contacted dispatch to send backup because he began fearing for his safety. Now, I want to highlight a few things. Number one, being aggressive, not illegal actually. Telling the police to F off, not illegal. We just covered a story on Indisputable not too long ago. Guy flips off the police. Police decide to arrest him. Instant defunding of the police occurring. Lawsuit. It's a violation of your freedom of expression here. So the police are saying the reason why they were punching and beating this man is because he attacked them first. Even if you take that narrative, that becomes retaliation, does it not? Because the professional and the constitutional obligation is to effect an arrest, not to effect a beatdown because somebody was aggressive and attacked you. Now, that's if you believe the police currently. Right now, nobody does. There's more. But when the other officers arrived and ordered Mr. Armstrong to place his hands behind his back to handcuff him in order to, according to them, maintain officer safety, they claimed he snatched his hands away from them and began fighting and resisting. The report goes on to say that Armstrong punched two cops in the face and used a hip toss to throw an officer on the ground. But none of that was captured in the videos that have been posted online. Now you got to go back to cause and effect. If they are attempting to arrest an individual unlawfully, if they are attempting to incarcerate somebody for doing absolutely nothing that is worthy of incarceration, a non-moving violation is not an offense that you go to jail for. It's a citation. It's typically an ordinance violation. There is no jail time affixed to that. It's a fine. So all of this started from a non-moving violation at Walmart. The escalation of this seems to be the police not liking the fact that an individual is upset about their interaction. Well, that's why police are supposed to be professional. It's simply a citation. This has now become, well, a headline story. But his family, police also say they found an AR-15 rifle in the backseat of his car, which is permissible in Indiana as long as the person does not have a felony conviction. Armstrong was charged with 2 counts of battery against a public safety official, 2 counts of resisting law enforcement, and 1 count of intimidation, according to WISH-TV. Now, there is no indication that the firearm had anything to do with the altercation. So why are we even talking about the firearm anyway? Well, because it's a black male. It's an individual that perhaps should not have a firearm, even if it's legal. All of a sudden it becomes part of the narrative. Oh, well, there you go. He had a weapon. There's more. Other commenters on various platforms, various threads showing the video, say it is not uncommon for people to park in the fire lane to load up on merchandise at that particular Walmart, especially during cold weather. It was about 15 degrees that day. She said her brother was trying to explain to the cop that his sister had already walked out to just let them be on their way. But the cop became angry when Mr. Armstrong cursed at him, responding by punching him in the face, which is what led to the violent confrontation. Now, given the track record of police reports and their extreme need to embellish, let's say, the truth, if I can use that terminology, to downright lie, given the reality that police officers as a collective unit have decided to be on the same page with those lies. We've exposed them right here. Who do you really believe? Who do you believe? Do you believe a man went to a Walmart to pick up his 16-year-old sister because he wanted to fight the police? Or do you believe that a man went to pick his 16-year-old sister up and all of a sudden a police officer took something small and made it into something big? The way the police lie to cover their ass is crazy, end quote, wrote Brittany Glass on Facebook while sharing a local media article Thursday about the incident. 2 days earlier, while posting the videos to the incident to her Facebook page only hours after the incident, she wrote that, quote, this man was wrongfully beat up by the police at the Far East Side Walmart in Indianapolis. He wasn't being aggressive with them. They took it upon themselves to add extra force to bring him down. Somebody tagged the Indy News or something. Let's put up the chief. Okay, that's Lawrence Police Chief. Curtis Bigsby said in the statement, quote, transparency and accountability are fundamental to maintaining the trust of the community we serve. We are committed to a fair, objective review of this incident, and appropriate action will be taken based on the findings. Lawrence Police released a statement to the media telling the public to have patience, quote, while all relevant evidence, including body-worn camera footage, witness statements, and other officer reports, thoroughly examined. I will say this. Many times we have done a segment like this, and the police chief has already proclaimed to be the defense attorney for the officers in question. At least at this moment, the chief is sounding quasi-reasonable that this information will be analyzed. It does not take weeks to analyze a few minutes of body cam footage. And so I'm looking for an update quickly. I believe we understand what happened. Cops got out of control over something very small because they can be very petty. All right, Francesca, once again, man beat down, cops give a reason. Say, oh, that's because he hit us first. That's actually not the way it goes. But even if you believe that, you realize there's a constitutional violation here. But I don't believe it for one bit. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the importance of filming the police, right? And Brittany Glass took it upon herself to film the cops because who knows what's going to happen with that body cam footage. And it reminds us of Darnella Frazier, right, who filmed the murder of George Floyd and how important that footage was to the ultimate conviction of Derek Chauvin, who, by the way, MAGA's trying to resuscitate that guy because, of course, you know, they know no depths and they are racist vigilantes and they love that kind of stuff. And so, number one, definitely always film the cops. Number two, I'm very struck by something that Brittany just says while she's there filming, right? She says, they just ran up on him. They seemed to, they wanted to, something like to that effect, which means she was standing there. She was seeing the whole thing and they used an excuse to start being aggressive against him. In this case, parking in a fire lane for 2 seconds. And so that I think is also really important. Like her gut reaction as she's watching all of this play out is they were just trying to find an excuse to harass this man. Now, as to that excuse, whether or not you think that, yes, parking in a fire zone is awful and we shouldn't do that, even if it's just to pick somebody up for 2 seconds in 15-degree weather, I would ask you whether or not you think that police armed and paid for by the taxpayer should be the ones enforcing parking law in a parking lot. Aren't there other dangers, ostensibly other people who might need actual help, than trying to do Walmart's parking enforcement for them and then resulting in someone being brutally beaten over it? So that's the other thing. We constantly talk about this, Doc, how many of these incidents start with a mere violation, and yet because cops are there to simply be bouncers of life and be obeyed no matter what they say, they use it as an opportunity to beat someone's ass, and they relish in that often, and they rarely get held accountable.
Yeah, and you're right. Also, the city government, they don't believe that briefly parking in a fire lane is that big of a crime, given the fact it's a non-arrestable offense and only an ordinance violation. We got more on the other side. Indisputable stick and stay.
Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, welcome back. Well, hell of a study. Report says the states with abortion bans have more infant deaths. More births as well. All right, let's get into it. Put it at full mass. So a new study showing that states with abortion bans see more births, but also more infant deaths has surfaced. KFF analysis of state policies and court decisions as of December 20th, 2024. So in the first study, Johns Hopkins researchers found that birth rates rose 1.7% in states with abortion bans. It showed that the bans primarily affect racial minorities, younger individuals, and those with lower income or lower education, especially in the South. Let's put it up. Quote, those experiencing the greatest structural disadvantages and in the states amongst the worst in maternal and child health outcomes experience the greatest impact of these abortion bans on the number of live births. That's according to Suzanne Bale, PhD and MPH, Master of Public Health. The paper's lead author and an assistant professor at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, she said this to ABC News. Quote, many of these occurred in states with among the weakest social services and worst outcomes, potentially deepening existing disparities and placing additional burdens on already strained resources, she said. So before I continue with the analysis and some of the background, it is very clear that the simple approach of banning abortions, all right, meaning they will proclaim they are pro-life. That's the political ploy. Oh, we're pro-life. But they're pro-death penalty and pro-killing people via war. They're also pro-defunding adoption agencies and maternal care advocacy groups, and the list goes on and on. So I don't see how in the hell they could ever be pro-life. All right, technical issue. My apologies to you. You see what's happening with the numbers. The numbers are quite clear. You have a political party who has said, no abortions, no right to choose for a woman, but that's a political ploy for them to be able to proclaim that they are somehow pro-life. But they are pro-death in so many ways. They are pro-death as it relates to actually caring for the child. They are pro-military engagement, killing people, blowing things up, no problem. Plenty of money to do that. They are pro-defunding Meals on Wheels for the elderly and those who have particular disabilities, no problem, no issue. We will take their money away. They also will take away support services to assist with the child and the mother once the child is here. All of those things they are against. But somehow they are pro-life, makes no sense. And now we see the reality of adverse policies, they actually lead to more death. At the same time, infant deaths rose in states with abortion bans. Let me say that first sentence again. At the same time, infant deaths rose in states with abortion bans, according to another Johns Hopkins study, analyzing birth and death records from 2012 to 2023. Bell's team noted 478 more infant deaths than expected in 14 states with the bans. The highest increases were seen in Black infants, about an 11% higher death rate. Infants in southern states and infants born with severe medical conditions. Quote, when you look at Texas' contribution to the overall findings, we see that Texas is responsible for 73% of the additional births and 80% of the excess infant deaths, Bell said. The line that every conservative has used in debate formats on this program and others has been the sanctity of life. Has one conservative talked about the increase of infant deaths due to the adverse policies of these Republican states? Not a damn one. And that lets you know their integrity is located in the politics of the argument rather than the substance. But states without bans have also felt the effects. Colorado State University. Their researchers found that abortions for out-of-state residents in Colorado rose from 13% in 2020 to 30% in 2023. Abortions among Colorado residents also peaked 6 months after Texas abortion ban, with an 11% increase in first trimester abortions and an 83% increase in second trimester abortions compared to before the ban. The surge in demand led to delays, possibly raising cost, emotional toll, and procedure complexity, the author said. However, second trimester abortions have since stabilized, possibly due to expanded telehealth, self-managed abortions in excess in other states. They added, currently, abortion is illegal in 12 states. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, and 29 states have some sort of abortion limitation based on the age. 9 states have no restriction on abortion at all, which means they get an influx as well. The policy is bad all the way around. That's the point. It has a domino effect that goes beyond the conservative states that passed the bill. All right, Francesca, thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I think we really need to remember that it's not just that it's political. And it's not at all about, being religious or being pro-family or pro-life. It is political, but more than that, it is about cruelty. It is about keeping women and children in line, right? It is about controlling their bodies, and it is about subjecting them and their families to the most heinous of circumstances. Remember that so many people who seek abortions are already parents. They cannot economically afford to have another child, or they want to have another child. They certainly and sincerely do want to have another child, but they want to have a healthy child. When you are not allowed to get access to an abortion and you test for lots of genetic abnormalities, that is going to ensure that your child will not survive maybe its first day, maybe its first hours of life. So what happens? Instead of terminating a pregnancy, which, yes, can be sad, it can also be a saving grace. But instead of terminating that pregnancy, politicians are obligating families to carry that pregnancy to term at potentially the health risk of the mother, but certainly a health risk of the baby that has possibly a genetic abnormality. And then when it is born, that family has to go through watching their newborn child struggle for life, maybe even struggle for breath as it dies in their arms. And that is what they think is pro-life. No. It is the height of cruelty. I say this as someone who has had a child, who's held a newborn infant in my arms, and I tell you, it is so unbelievably cruel to make anyone go through carrying a pregnancy to term that they know will not result in a healthy child. So this is what we've known was going to happen. We see it's going to happen. As you mentioned, they defund WIC. WIC is a program that specifically helps women and infants with nutrition, right? They're defunding WIC So miss me with all of that. What you want to do is you want more people who are desperate, who are unhealthy, and who die, and use that as a form of control.
And that's exactly what the policy is doing. All right, we'll bring you updates on the numbers as they come. Okay, remember the Mayor Tiffany Henyard? Well, she has been hit with a new lawsuit after a wild brawl made her lose her shoes and a wig. Here it is. Madam Mayor. Put it up full mass here. Brawl came at a hearing. This is the Illinois mayor. She's been hit with a new lawsuit after losing a shoe and allegedly her wig while helping her boyfriend attack an activist during the town meeting. Went viral. That's according to the allegation. The brawl came at a hearing over alleged mismanagement of the township's at-risk youth program by Mayor Tiffany Henyard's boyfriend, Kamal Woods, and another man named William Moore, okay? In public comments, an activist named Jedediah Brown called the mayor a, quote, half-assed mayor, end quote, and accused her of, quote, sleeping her way to the top, and then concluded, quote, you gone, B-word, he concluded. I'm surprised she still has a job, to be quite honest with you. So this is going to be an interesting background. So Brown and another citizen, Lavelle Redmond, filed federal lawsuits against Henyard and Woods, alleging the brawl was, quote, retaliation for exercising the rights to free speech, expression, and association. Police eventually broke up the fight. No charges were filed, ironically. In her lawsuits, Brown and Redmond alleged Henyard hit them with her microphone. Redmond claims in his lawsuit that he tried to, quote, mediate to prevent any physical altercation before Woods confronted Brown. Redmond then punched Woods, the lawsuit states, in an attempt to defend himself and Brown. The South Holland Police Department and Thornton Township Security are accused of failing to intervene in the violent brawl in both lawsuits. I want to remind you, an investigation conducted by former federal prosecutor and Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot found that Henyard engaged in a systemic effort to cover up overspending. That was a while ago. Lightfoot revealed Dalton was overwhelmed by debt tracked to the mayor. She said the city's credit card spending spiked to $779,638 in 2023 with little to no tracking. One card showed $40,000 was spent in one day on Amazon purchases. City funds were also used to pay for large trips to Las Vegas in both 2023 and 2022. Henyard is accused of using $7 million in township funds for the Vegas trip, self-promotional billboards, and DJs for government meetings. Yeah. I got to say, the first time I heard Madam Mayor try to defend herself was actually on my dear brother Roland Martin's show. And I think Roland gave her a fair opportunity to say, what the hell is going on with all of these allegations? She didn't do well in that interview at all. Basically exposed herself. And now the saga continues. But once again, she's still the mayor. All right, Francesca, I know this isn't the first time you've heard of Tiffany here. What say you?
I mean, I'm glad she's getting sued, right? I just wonder, like, it's a little bit scary if she's still in office and being sued, because who knows where the lawsuit, for her defense, the money for her defense is going to come from. But again, this is just like the fact that we can't regularly impeach kind of, low-level corrupt politicians tells you everything you need to know about not being able to impeach high-level corrupt,
that's right.
criminals, really. I mean, we impeached him, but, he still managed to remain in office. But again, it's like she took advantage of the at-risk youth program. Her boyfriend was running it. And yes, maybe it was a little below the belt for the activist to say what he said. But was there any lies? I mean, like, that's kind of the truth. It seems like the boyfriend might have slept his way up. So if anything, I want to, claim sexism here because I think the boyfriend might have done the sleeping up. But still, it is, it's just great. I wonder how much the wig cost. I definitely, if I was wearing a wig, I'd be like, I'm not getting involved in a fight because this needs to stay on. Like, everybody, when if you have a wig or a tube top on, just don't get involved in a fight because something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen.
Or set it aside right before the brawl.
Set it aside.
All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of these beautiful comments. Kara says, unfortunately, taxpayers usually end up paying the price for police brutality. and the police departments don't care. Excessive use of force and other lawsuits need to be paid out of police budgets. It is ironic, right? They would get upset over an advocate saying we should defund the police to prioritize public safety over policing, but no issue when the police simply will defund the police. They will simply go and ask for more money the next year. No issue from the community. Mason Stitch, what's up, Doc? What's up back to you? Max Sims, what up, Doc? What up back to you? Thank you all for joining the program. And that's right, Winston Sayer says, in today's installment of operating a motor vehicle while black, he wasn't even operating. He was just non-moving violation. Insane. Emmett Pinkston, welcome to Indisputable. Thank you for joining the Truth Train. And I think this is Herberry. Shout out, great show. Thank you so much. You are part of making it great. And that's, yeah. Jerome Sanders, $7 million on the Vegas trip. Somebody got a gambling problem. And Meladin B. Poppin' Dragon, fascist killer trust. Okay, I'm in Texas and I am aware of the women with children and no education creates poverty.
Yes. The leading cause of poverty is having a kid. I mean, it's sad to say, but the leading cause of poverty is having kids. Also beautiful sometimes, can be great, but it's a huge expense. And we don't help people in this country.
Yeah, and that's why it should be a decision, a choice.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
I was here after this guy.
You know, it's just charging. Just calm down. There's...
Dude! Get the away.
Okay, guys, I have evidence, okay?
Sure.
If something... Okay.
God damn it. I'm gonna hit you, bro.
Guys, it's just charging.
Dude, I was in line.
It's not a big deal. Just calm down.
See that? He was behind us. Huh? I was behind this guy.
It's just a charger.
You saw me, right? Seriously. He was right there. I was seriously.
Okay, Jack, let's go. It's okay. That's how it's people right now. Because if somebody that's
I know, but I was before.
This wouldn't happen if you had Fleetwood. Put it up full mass. Damn Teslas. All right. Availability of charging stations has been a point of contention, in particular with obviously Tesla customers. You see Tesla owners fighting over a charging station there, and obviously it is intense. You have a third party who's saying, hey, it's not that big a deal, calm down. It's a Tesla, damn it. And I was here, I think, first. Elon Musk reportedly fired virtually all of Tesla's supercharger vehicle charging team members. Fired all of them. After a presentation and argument with a top executive. Mr. Musk made the decision to fire most of the personnel on the 500-member team after a meeting with the charging chief, Rebecca Tanucci. That's according to an anonymous company source or sources who spoke with Reuters. During the meeting, the executive reportedly pushed back against Mr. Musk and his calls for deep cuts to the charging team. He reportedly responded by ordering the mass firings, part of a larger round of layoffs at the EV company as the company struggles with declining profits and increased competition. So in response to the video going viral, Tesla announced on social media, virtual queuing pilots starting in Q2 at select sites. Goal is a net customer experience improvement for the 1% cases of wait time. Wider rollouts this year, if feedback is positive. We also continue to expand the network 20% plus year over year, closely tracking site level demand.
Sure.
Yeah. So they're going to try to do better in the future, I guess, even though they say, oh, well, the problem's just very small here. Francesca, it took a Karen video to get them to do something. What say you?
I mean, yeah, this is like, I think it's like Rancho Cucamonga in California. It's a pretty wealthy neighborhood. And so it's like, oh no, we got you, man, in like somehow, I don't know, his shorts are just like, oh, those are those shorts, the shorts.
Right.
And then you got like, I think it seems like a Filipina auntie who's like, it's okay. It's just a charging station. And it's like, we love that auntie, number one. Yes. We stand, we support. But yeah, this is the problem with charging stations and specifically Tesla charging stations overall. I used to like lease a small smart car. I know, I'm amazing. An electric smart car. That thing zipped. I loved it. But you couldn't find charging stations because most charging stations are Tesla charging stations, and they charge much faster, but they're exclusive. And so part of Biden's, rollout was to try to get more charging stations for all vehicles. And they were, I believe, working with Tesla to try to say, look, you can't just have Tesla exclusive charging stations. You need to make these charging stations available. And I believe there's adapters and whatnot, but you need to make them available to all EVs. But of course, because Trump and President Musk are now in power. Trump cut $3 billion from the Biden plan to expand charging stations. And you see why people are hesitant to, get an electric vehicle and try to cut down on the amount of fossil fuel pollution in the atmosphere, right? It's because we don't all have parking garages. We don't all have places to put charging stations. We don't all have, homes with garages and whatnot. So we go and rely on these charging stations. But if there are fewer and fewer, and if dudes in, shorts are getting mad at us, it's just like, it's just more and more headache. And I feel for Tesla owners right now because nobody wants Tesla. Tesla stock are plummeting and people can't, I'm sure the resale is not going well, but shout out to Sheryl Crow for selling hers, and so it's, and there you go, firing your Tesla charging chief, because of course he did. That's what he does to every company. And now the US government hollowing it out, getting into fights with people so that you have a less effective and, less availability for people who want to use your product.
That's right. And the company and profits never been friends to each other. The stock has been how they've maintained. That's obviously plummeting now. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come from Tesla and the Karens. All right, hell of a thing. So Tamera Mowry's husband goes on a rant about food stamps. And let's put it up full mass here. Put up the picture full mass. Former Fox News correspondent Adam Housley, that's the hubby, is being dragged through the social ringer for his comments about how low-income families utilize welfare benefits. The veteran journalist was also the husband of, one of the most famous twins in America. Found himself embroiled in a heated discourse with ex-users about abuse of food stamps, a food assistance program. This was in February 19th to be exact. However, Housley in past statements has claimed that he did not vote for Trump or Hillary back in 2016 and left Fox News over how the network covered Trump. He's also publicly been critical of Trump in the past. But despite that, he seemingly co-signed a report that U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and other Donald Trump officials will be pursuing amendments to the SNAP program, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that will ban the purchase of less nutritious and processed food items with the government funds. So he posted, as a kid who grew up in neighborhood grocery stores since I was 5, I can't tell you how many times I saw people come in and buy crack food for their kids for food stamps, then open the wallet and use cash for liquor, beer, wine, and cigarettes. Then there were those who would repeatedly buy a lemon or lime, get the change, walk out the door, throw them away, and do it again until they had enough change to buy cigarettes or alcohol. As a kid, it pissed me off because there are some people who could really use the help. And then there are these others working the system. He also claimed, my parents used every dime they had to open a small neighborhood grocery store. My brother and I basically lived in the back room. And as a family, we worked our butts off. I got baseball cards as I paid for picking up cigarette butts in the Planters, LOL. Worked those stores until I left for TV. Brother still run both of them. So here's how folks on TikTok reacted to his food stamp rant. Here it is.
At 5 years old, no, sir. No. No. You lying. You lying, and you know you lying.
Oh, Tamera, you're never beating those allegations. It's never happened, sir. What kid do you know is gonna say, oh my God, junk food? Only rich kids do that.
Tamera's husband, that dude is lying. Because he grew up in Napa Valley. Ain't no poor people in Napa Valley. That's not only one of the wealthiest places in the world, that's one of the most popular tourist places in the world. So he told this story to fit a racist narrative, to fit a stereotype. And even if this story is true, so low-income kids, they don't deserve to eat junk food or snack. Nothing but healthy food. Last time I checked, there's no Whole Foods in low-income areas.
From what we've seen over the past few years, there's a twin that identifies with one side more, and there's a twin that identifies with the other side more. And I think we've heard over the years that the twin that identifies with one side more and her husband and some of their viewpoints do create distance between Tia and Tamera.
After reading what Tamaga's husband had to say about food stamps, I understand why Tia responded with, oh, when Tamaga said she was called a...
Let's put their pictures back up here again. Sir, you see what you're taking your wife through, sir. Okay? We don't believe you. You need more people. Also, those are tall tales and long lies that you put out there. Okay? Easily verifiable. Some responders argued his knowledge of SNAP was outdated as benefactors cannot receive cash back with purchases. Yeah, exactly. More tense comments came from those who called him a habitual liar and questioned why he felt entitled to comment on the economic struggles of others when he grew up in wine country. Quote, I thought you grew up in a vineyard, read one such response. Housley, along with his wife, his parents, brothers, and sister-in-law are founders and co-owners of the Housley Napa Valley Winery. On the establishment's website, it states the Emmy winner grew up with a vineyard in his front yard, end quote. In his defense, Housley explained that he worked the register at the grocer his parents used every dime to open, and that it remains in his family to this day. The context further fueled backlash. A fiery clap back to the tweet read, quote, you can't relate one bit. Your parents owned a grocery store. You grew up in a vineyard. You grew up privileged, point blank. Just another privileged guy speaking on anything. And a third person claimed he was pretending you grew up poor, just to make a political point, when all evidence points to the contrary. Is so effing demeaning. You're perfect for modern politics. So Mowry also found herself thrust into the discourse with someone commenting, I usually am against judging a woman off of what her man does, but Tamera is right at the top of my judgment list. A second person proclaimed, TM is MAGA, ASF, laughing my off. A third user mentioned the rumored rift between the real co-host and her twin, Tia. No wonder why Tia distanced herself from her sister, looked like her husband, read the remark. The couple has been married for 13 years and are parents of 2 children. So last year, the Game Star revealed she and Tamera were no longer as close as they once were in the aftermath of her divorce. The actress later clarified that their relationship was solid, but that the distance between them was literal, as Tamera splits her time between Los Angeles and Napa. All right, Francesca, thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, I think social media roasted this one, so they got it. I mean, they really did it. But I just want to say that I think I'm so glad that we live in a time where people can speak back against these old, tired tropes about people who are on food stamps or SNAP being unhealthy and like wasting the government's money. And of course, it's all racialized. We understand that the majority of beneficiaries are white people, are, and they're having their benefits cut right now under Trump. But of course, it's black people who somehow get blamed for leeching off the system. This is old Reagan, seeing a woman on welfare in a Cadillac or whatever he said what was the issue. And the other thing is this, SNAP benefits are measly. They are so small. And there are already limitations on what you can purchase with them, number one. But number two, during the American Rescue Plan, when in response to COVID, the Biden administration was like, I'm going to increase these benefits by 15%. You heard reports of people who were like, finally, I can buy vegetables with SNAP benefits. Why? Because vegetables are far more expensive. Obviously, don't get me started on food deserts where people can buy, as that one gentleman said, there's no Whole Foods, in poor neighborhoods. So people were able to buy more healthy food, but instead we rescinded those benefits. We're rescinding even more benefits, and we love blaming poor people, and we love coalescing what I would call honestly fat phobia, racism, and anti-poor bigotry all into one big sort of blame the victim ideology. And it's so sick. And Doc, as we have RFK Jr. as head of HHS, we're going to see so much more of this. I just did battle on Piers Morgan about the same thing. Why are people eating so unhealthy? Because cheap carbs are cheap, literally. And if you're rescinding everyone's food benefits, what do you think people are going to turn to? So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy over here.
Yeah, it truly is. And the individuals who make complaint, they don't care about money or spending. If they did, they'll care about how the Department of Defense spends 80% on non-defense related items and how killing people and blowing things up is always acceptable in the budget. Those things would be a concern for those who are truly concerned about how the tax dollar is spent. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, welcome back. Okay, go to some of the comments here. Guam will capsize dragon. See, I heard that people were buying steak and lobster with food stamps. Somebody is lying.
Yeah.
There you go. Mark NYC, I bet he either saw it happen just once or more likely heard that bull pucky la somewhere in a white dominated chat. Yeah. And next TYT reporter, Elon Musk is a train wreck. His solution to everything is firing everybody. Yeah, except himself. And I think this is Tanjua Robinson. Keep doing what you do. I love your show. Love you back. Thank you so much. And Dragon Bear NJ, fantastic. That's right. She is here. And Spirit X Black Boss of the Bayou. This is why they're going to have to make those things as plentiful as a gas station, because I'd heard somebody were having to go through that and deal with those Karens. Yeah, there you go. All right. What if I told you that a school teacher reaches out to ICE, to the federal government, to report his undocumented students? Here it is.
So a white teacher in Baltimore tweeted to ICE about his immigrant students trying to give ICE their information. Dustin Renner wrote to ICE on Twitter about 50 students skipping school with an excuse during the Day Without Immigrants protests that were happening. And he wrote, all are either immigrants or kids of. If you want the names to investigate families to find undocumented people, let me know in DM. He also wrote in another tweet about MS-13 being in the school system and how ICE needs to come and clean it out. So this guy is trying to give ICE his students' information. He should be protecting his students as a teacher and trying to paint them all as gang members. So ICE comes and gets the criminal, but really goes after collateral arrests.
Unbelievable. Put up the picture here. A special thanks to content creator Mr. Guerrero for exposing this teacher online. Let me go up to the fallout. So Baltimore County Public Schools has now suspended educator Dustin Renner, a social studies teacher at Overlay High School, after his post on social media suggested he was willing to assist ICE in targeting his own students. That's according to multiple sources at the school. Post under the username Renner Training on X, formerly Twitter, appeared to offer help to ICE, including providing the names of students legally excused from school to participate in a, quote, Day Without Immigrants protest. One post from the 3rd of February reads, quote, was just sent a list of students who are allowed to legally skip today in support of illegals, as most are illegal. Do I contact ICE or let it slide? Other posts from the now deleted or private account tagged ICE directly, offering to share the names of students for potential immigration enforcement action, saying, quote, if you want the names to investigate families to find illegals, let me know in DM, direct message. I'll give names in school, all in MD. In response to the controversy, the school principal, Dr. Monica Sample, sent a letter to the community expressing concern over the unsettling social media post, allegedly from the high school teacher, directed at a group of students. She emphasized that the statements did not align with the school's values or the district's expectations for staff. Dr. Sample also addressed the students directly in a statement over the school's intercom system. The school students told us they were not satisfied with Dr. Sample's comment, which stopped short from confirming the school teacher's removal from the classroom. As a result, they protested in solidarity with migrant students. The student protesters can be heard saying, free Mexicans, and quote, we will not be silent, end quote. A refrain on Dr. Sample's announcement over the intercom and videos posted to X and TikTok. The protest resulted in multiple suspensions of students, according to the students, who say Dr. Sample threatened to take away their prom if they did not stop protesting. Quote, this isn't the first incident. He was a history teacher a while ago when he got reported for saying things to the school administration that the school administration did not like and was forced to teach something else. One student told Migrant Insider about Mr. Renner. A sad state of affairs. A lot of adults are responding in irresponsible ways. And the fact that this teacher already had a track record for saying things that may have been contrary to the very conscience of the student, but remain, just teach something else, is indicative of systems that put more emphasis on, let's say, the protocol of the adult rather than the protocol of the child. And now you have a teacher who has done the unthinkable, literally going to the police on students. They haven't violated any crime that he absolutely knows of. He's definitely violating a significant number of protocols and civil liability dynamics associated with the district and possibly even the law. So this guy goes out of his way to report his own students. He's an advocate for them. He's in a trusted position. Parents trust him. Community trust him. But here we are, Trump era, MAGA. Francesca, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the sad reality is that some teachers, not all, the majority are wonderful and amazing, but some teachers actually do see their children and their students as criminals. We know that they do this when it comes to the cops too. And they're okay with not educating the future of America. They're okay with educating or miseducating people who they believe are actually just criminals and are lesser than and don't deserve what other people have. I mean, we've seen this, right? In the ways that police are allowed to function inside of high schools and elementary schools even, and doing the discipline. So this guy just took it one step further. I mean, this is what Tom Homan would be so excited about. You know, the borders are under Trump. He'd love this. He would encourage this kind of stuff. So I think we're going to be seeing, sadly, more of this. But, you know, here's the thing. These students are not going to be threatened. These students are so amped up. They are so fired up. They are supportive of one another in many cases, but in other cases, they're not. I mean, look, I'm reminded this week, we found out that an 11-year-old girl took her own life because her fellow students were actually taunting her and bullying her, that they would call ICE on her and her family specifically. And that is heinous. So again, if you've got a teacher like this guy, that is A-okay to a green light for bullying, for the kinds of things that ended in a young girl committing suicide. But if you have a teacher who, again, I think the vast majority of them love their students, support their students, and they would never sell them out to law enforcement and certainly not ICE.
We covered that story as well of the 11-year-old, and the reality of that story is connected to this one. It actually had a lot to do with the administration and faculty doing absolutely nothing to protect that 11-year-old. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. Trump has ordered the database on federal police misconduct shut down. Put it up full mass. President Trump has ordered the shutdown of the first nationwide database tracking misconduct by federal police officers. The database prevented bad cops from jumping from agency to agency. Trump reversed Biden's order creating the database, even though Trump proposed the idea himself. Biden's executive order 14074, established a national database of police misconduct and required all federal law enforcement agencies to participate and use the database to screen personnel. So what did Biden's executive order accomplish? It banned the use of chokeholds and carotid restraints, quote, unless deadly force is authorized, and restricted the use of no-knock warrants or entries. It ensued timely and thorough investigations and consistent discipline. It also mandated body-worn camera policies and the expedited public release of footage in cases of serious bodily injury or deaths and custody for all federal agencies. It restricted the transfer of federal purchases of military equipment that belongs on the battlefield, not on our streets. It also tracked data on use of force incidents. The move by Trump fulfills a campaign promise to reverse police reforms that came out of the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests following the murder of George Floyd. As of September 2024, there were 4,790 records of federal officer misconduct between 2018 and 2023 inside of the database. That's according to a report released last year, Open News new tab. Trump himself had proposed creating a database on, quote, instances of excessive use of force related to law enforcement matters in June 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. The national database encompassed nearly 150,000 federal officers and agents from the FBI and IRS down to the Railroad Retirement Board. Per the Post, all 90 executive branch agencies with law enforcement officers had provided thousands of disciplinary records dating back to 2017. A report issued by the Justice Department in December said. Understand this is happening because Trump is bringing in his cronies in order to do his bidding. And this is what it looks like when special interests and oligarchs, people who don't generally give a damn about you, this is what it looks like. This is how it happens. They're trying to simply create a veil. They want to create a barrier so that you don't see everything that's about to happen. But it gives you an indication that something is about to go down. Trump doesn't care about the police, evidenced by how he decided to release individuals who threatened, harassed, and brutalized cops on January 6th during that infamous day. Don't care about the police. He cares about his own interests and furthering that interest through policy. That's what's happening here. And this isn't just about police reform. It is about advocating for the communities you serve. You see, one thing that 91% of people agree with in the United States of America, regardless of political affiliation, is that there needs to be some level of police reform. Now, there's dissension about how much police reform, but 91% of Americans believe that police reform is required. 91%. Here we go. You get 0. All right, Francesca, thoughts?
Yeah, and this is under the Biden administration that they established this misconduct board. The Biden administration, how many years, how many decades have Americans, innocent, unarmed Americans, been gunned down by cops, been brutalized by police, and then their aggressors traded like cards to different departments where they can continue being, bullies, being basically, deputized gangs in their communities. And so again, remember, this was just something recent, and all it is, hey, maybe there should be a database. Hey, maybe there should be some limitations on weapons of war going to local police departments. Maybe we should just, rein that in a little bit. No, and even that is too much, and I'm someone who's super critical of the Biden administration for not doing more in response to one of the biggest movements I've seen in my lifetime, the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, obviously piggybacking off of the 2014 movement, and on and on and on. And all we got was, okay, we're going to do a little bit more oversight, which is, yes, very welcome, but this is why we need to keep fighting against the backlash, Doc, because we are living in the backlash of the BLM movement. A lot of people are trying to rewrite history, trying to rewrite who George Floyd was and who Derek Chauvin is, and on and on and on. And so it shows like Indisputable that are reporting on this police misconduct and brutality that we need to keep supporting and we need to keep doing, and all the amazing journalists that you guys highlight throughout the show. So it's on us, like it's always been.
Yeah. Well said, and we thank you for your leadership. We are thankful for everyone who watches Indisputable and provides that light to the rest of the world. Remember, light is information, light is truth, light is wisdom, all right? Thank you, dear sister, for all that you do. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, follow the Bituation Room wherever you get your podcasts, or tune in live right after Indisputable, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to go do my show right now. Doc's gonna, battle it out with in the bullpen.
That's right. Always good to have you on the show. All right, the bullpen is next. Stick and stay.
Indisputable exclusive, disputable exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
All right, welcome back. We got a few comments, kind of pressed for time to read just a few. Yep. Yeah, she is. Over 9,000 entered the dragon. Thanks, Francesca, for crushing Pierce pathetic panels. Yeah, she does a great job there. And Ace Matavia, I believe, Matavia. It's a lot of teachers doing that, talking about the teachers reporting their own students. Insane. All right, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, we have Mr. Alex Rosado, Professional Programs Assistant at Alexander Hamilton Society, Research Fellow for Horizon Info Consulting with the Young Voices, also contributor there. Fascinating. Good to have you on the program, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dr. Ritchie. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. We're going to chop it up about the Dodd-Frank Act, which was passed in 2010. You are of the mindset, I believe, that it should be a deregulated dynamic. I don't want to presume what you know, believe about it holistically. So I will allow you the opportunity to provide your point of view, and then I will opine.
Certainly. Well, in an age of economic innovation within America, there are unfortunately some regulations and acts that are holding us back. And one of them just so happens to be the Dodd-Frank Act that you just mentioned. And this is on a variety of fronts as well. And all of these come back to community banking. You're seeing a lot of bank closures within the United States. The most recent one just happening last month in Illinois with Pulaski Savings Bank. You saw in 2023 that America saw the highest amount of bank closings since the 2008 recession. You also saw that the number of community banks within America, those with less than $10 billion worth of assets, shrank by about 14% between Dodd-Frank's passage in 2010 and 2014. Now, these are going to affect communities and local lenders the most. They rely on these institutions for a customized and tailored service. And unfortunately, they can't get that if they're being hammered by compliance costs and other economic relations that make it harder to survive and thrive.
Let's talk about the Dodd-Frank Act in a more holistic dynamic, because obviously there are some dynamics inside of it that, in my opinion, are quite beneficial. There may not be too much daylight between you and I on this. I've said for many years that the Dodd-Frank Act has stopped the ability of, let's say, a Black-owned bank wanting to become a community bank. The regulations and the authorities that are required, the hurdles you have to jump over, are basically so significant that it becomes an ineffective process for somebody to engage. And so I get that part. But would you argue that every single aspect of the Dodd-Frank Act should be eliminated? For example, the consumer protection modalities that are included, or the state expansion programs that are included. Would you also throw those out in the act or in the reformation of it?
Well, I think in regards to reformation, you need to look at each piece individually. And especially when they relate to community banks, you see that action has been taken previously with legislation that has been passed by both the House and Senate in a bipartisan fashion. You saw that back in 2018 with an act called the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act. This was pioneered under the Trump administration first time around. And what it did is reduce the regulatory burden for a lot of these small banks and consumers. It increased lending flexibility, and it also lowered compliance costs. And a lot of Democrats ended up joining up on this act. You saw that it passed the House by a margin of about 260 to 159. 33 Democrats supported it there. You saw it in the Senate as well, where 17 Democrats supported it. So truly, this is something that people are united across the aisle about. When it comes to economic reformation, truly this is something that America as a holistic society can benefit from.
Let me get some specifics. So one thing the Dodd-Frank Act did is it enhanced state authority to create consumer protections based on the deceptive practices that had become habitual in that state. That's one element that was enhanced through the Dodd-Frank Act. Another one was oversight of the actual institution. The financial institution had this requirement to report information, which also included information that could be seen as or deemed as discriminatory. Specific consumer protections included mortgage lending, credit reporting, meaning a person could get a free credit report. They didn't have to pay for this. And also it eliminated unfair practices by establishing a general ban on deceptive, abusive, and unfair practices. I would imagine that you don't want those elements taken out of whatever the new branding is for the Reformation, right?
Well, some of what you referred to happens to fall within the Durbin Amendment that was also passed within Dodd-Frank. And unfortunately, this was a way of government overreach that slapped price controls on fees that banks and credit unions can charge retailers to process debit card purchases. Now, what ended up happening with that? You saw that banks and credit unions across the country couldn't recover most of those costs. So how did they make up for it? They charged the consumers. And that led to reduced benefits, a lot less tailorized services, and higher fees at these local institutions. And that drew out a lot of business that they usually would have gotten. And it also resulted in some of the poorest consumers and investors within the economy dropping out of the banking system entirely. In fact, you saw a study from George Mason University back in 2014 saying that about 1 million Americans lost access to the banking system, becoming what they call unbanked. And unfortunately, due to these regulations, you're seeing that this is becoming more of a common trend. And now about a third of counties nationwide don't have community banks at all.
Yeah, I think we're back to the community banking dynamic, which I agree with you in. But what consumer protections would you keep? Or what consumer protections would you enhance? Or do you want consumer protections to be gone away with all the way?
Well, I think with consumer protection comes with innovation as well. And we need more resources and monetary wealth within the pockets and hands of consumers that would do so. For example, having not just community banks, but also just certain institutions have programs and services that will allow young, hungry entrepreneurs to enter the market.
But sir, I'm specifically, and hear my question specifically. Many of the dynamics associated with banking came because of deceptive practices from the financial institutions themselves. They were the bad actors who routinely were not held accountable for the deceptive practices, abusive practices, and the usury practices they implemented on individuals that were typically poor. So when I pose that question to you, I'm asking you specifically, are there any of the consumer protections that you actually do agree with to ensure that the industry as a whole does not run amok again on the consumer? Because every industry worth industry status has regulation that at least is common sense. A medical doctor is regulated, a psychiatrist is regulated, a veterinarian is regulated. So what regulation would the financial industry have to the consumer?
Certainly. Price gouging would not be good across the board. I don't think any government actor would want to deliberately raise prices in order to profit from them. And meanwhile, gatekeeping consumers from certain products, services, industries that would enhance their quality of life. Because especially for low-income communities, you see that economic mobilization is a social upbringing. And particularly this affects low-income communities the most. You're seeing that particularly with 1/3 of Hispanics and African Americans, they don't meet the underwriting requirements that are really being generalized by a lot of these poor economic policies. And because of that, they can't obtain mortgages.
But once again, you're dealing with, and I get that part, and we're back to the point that we actually agree on, that you have to make it easier for community banks to, one, develop, and two, thrive. So we agree on that point. But let's go to another specific point. One of the dynamics under the Dodd-Frank Act, and I'm no fan of the act, I'm simply a fan of people. And so I see some of the elements here that help people. So I want to talk about those. The expanded state authority portion of the act, which gives the state attorney general the authority to hold the financial institution accountable if they are in violation of deceptive or abusive practices. Would you get rid of that portion? Would you not want there to be, even if it's not a regulatory system, at least you have a law enforcement system that can enforce the law for the local citizens who may have been taken advantage of?
Well, I think certainly it would be great to have more accountability within the system as well. But you also have to make sure that that power doesn't go unchecked or goes rogue. And especially with a lot of government overreach, you get to see that once you have a certain policy in place, it becomes not innovative, but expansive. And those are two very different concepts.
But you're arguing a hypothetical at this point, and that hypothetical could be utilized to offset any type of proposed program or regulatory institution. My question is, as it stands now, would you be in support of the state remaining within their authoritative control to prosecute bad actors in the financial institution industry. That's it. Would you be okay with that?
I would prefer the states take charge over matters that are in their own backyard rather than the federal government doing so, just because of the devolution of powers.
So you agree. So the expanded state authority came by way of the Dodd-Frank Act.
I would say yes, and it came about in some of the most worst ways possible.
Okay. All right. So we quasi agree.
I would, yes, draw that line in the sand as well.
All right. So let me ask you about the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which came out of that. This act established a dedicated agency to focus on consumer protections at large. Would you want to have that reformed, or do you want to get rid of that holistically as well?
Well, from personal experience, just talking about this, and there's an article that I'm writing up talking about this as well. Specifically, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau wasn't that useful of an organization. And you saw that within the first 20 days of the second Trump administration. You saw that Rohit Chopra, the former head of the CFPB, just got ousted. Jonathan McKernan just took his place last week. You also saw the CFPB headquarters in DC get shut down recently as well. About 100 bureaucrats were fired. And you have to note that none of these officials were actually elected. They were government appointees, and they were filled for a certain agenda. And you have to wonder what exactly that was. Now, of course, there will be debate and discussion about that as well. But the notion that a lot of these institutions that were brought about with Dodd-Frank, saying that we need to make sure that these bank systems aren't too big to fail, well, 2023 will tell you otherwise. So
I agree that the regulators, you had the wrong individuals in place. You also had an implementation standard that was not to the standard of consumer protection. That's different than if the act itself, the Consumer Protection Act itself, should that be reformed to make sure it's done properly? There's one dynamic when you argue implementation. There's another if you argue that the institution or entity itself should not exist. So which one are you arguing? Is it implementation, or are you saying that the Protection Bureau should not be in place?
I think in a way the Protection Bureau and its responsibilities should be devolved to other assets within the government, or potentially going back to communities, state governments as well.
Well, let's talk about who then. If that's your proposed solution, that's fine. I can rock with that. Who's going to do your stress test? Who's going to do risk mitigation? Like what agency in the federal government would take on the responsibility of the Bureau?
Well, I think this would be a joint venture between potentially the Commerce Department and also the Treasury Department as well, because they're the ones who deal with most financial repercussions and try and have those stress tests in place like you saw in the aftermath of 2008 as well.
All right. Listen, we agree on a couple of things and disagree on most, but it's, you're a smart guy, robust conversation. I appreciate your time on Indisputable.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Remember, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.